Coming up, the truth about Truth Social. Shares of DJT plunging since its initial IPO. Trump's newly public social media company now losing billions in value. What this all means for the former president.
And the first total solar eclipse since 2017 is coming up on Monday. And you don't have to go far to see its surprising economic impact.
And the market's rising after the March jobs report was released this morning. Hold on to your wallets because Market Shares starts right now. In a major vote on Wednesday, Disney shareholders overwhelmingly decided to keep the company's current board intact. Welcome into Market Shares. I'm Bradley Hoppenstein.
And I'm Peyton Spellacy. This vote suggests that the company believes that the current CEO, Bob Iger, has a plan to boost shares.
Yeah, a path for Disney to gain profits starts with turning its streaming services into a profitable unit. If Disney struggles to show investors they have a good strategy, they may be knocking on the company's door during next year's meeting to demand change.
If Disney can turn a profit in its streaming business, Disney Plus, it would be the first time Disney showed it can make money from Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus. The biggest question for Disney is who follows Iger as CEO? The board has been given a green light to proceed with its search process, which is a win for Iger and the shareholders.
Yeah, we saw that whole thing unfold a few years back where Bob Chapek took over after Iger, and then things just went disastrous for Disney. Iger came back, but there's a lot of questions of who will be following him. All right, one of the other major stories we're following this afternoon, just this morning, jobs numbers for March came in and they easily topped expectations in a sign of continued acceleration for what's been a bustling labor market. The unemployment rate moved lower to around 4% and average hourly earnings rate wages rose 0.3% for the month.
Growth came from many of the usual sectors, healthcare-led, followed by government, leisure, and hospitality. Markets have been keeping a close watch over employment data, particularly as the Fed tries to guide inflation back down to 2% annually.
And we hinted at it last week, but now it's official. Tesla just had probably its worst quarter ever. Its Q1 report shows deliveries fell 8.5% from a year ago and about 20% from Q4 last year. The number of cars the company delivered was below even the lowest Wall Street estimate. The report also shows Tesla is manufacturing less cars than it was a year ago. That number is down 13%. The EV maker faced a number of challenges in the first quarter, though. It has to balance manufacturing across all its vehicles, and it's also been dealing with some factory shutdowns from a ripple effect of shipping issues coming out of the Middle East. There's also quickly increasing competition in China from domestic EV makers over there. And reviews of the Cybertruck are finally starting to come in, and they are mixed. Elon Musk and Tesla's crew are trying to get things back on track, but it's going to be a steep hill to climb. They're starting by giving out a free month trial of their self-driving technology, betting those advancements and its advancements in technology will keep them ahead of the competition.
And Bradley, General Motors also underperforming in the first quarter, but not quite as bad. GM sales fell under 2% from a year ago, but it's underperforming a lot over other major automakers. GM says the decline is mostly due to a 23% year-over-year decline in sales to fleet customers. Those are customers that typically have several vehicles that they use for their business. Buick was actually the only GM brand to report an increase in sales, up a nice 16%. GMC was off about 5%, while Cadillac and Chevy were both off 2%. As for EVs, those are still the smallest side of GM sales. GM shares have been on a slow decline since the report, but ended the week pretty flat, still in the range of 45 a share.
And CVS says that they will cover the first over-the-counter birth control pill in the U.S. for no cost. The drug, known as O-Pill, usually has a retail price of $20 for a month's supply, but CVS says they will cover it. O-Pill was made available at pharmacies on Monday, and its sale marks the first time that many U.S. residents are able to buy birth control pills over the counter. The same way they'd purchase something like Tylenol or Advil, you can now purchase this birth control pill, and this is significantly going to expand the availability of contraception, especially for younger women and those who have trouble getting access to birth control.
Apple has cut over 600 employees in California, the first significant round of layoffs since the pandemic. The workers were informed late March, and the changes will take place at the end of May. Now, Apple hasn't been subject to as many job cuts as its tech peers, mostly because the iPhone maker grew more slowly than rivals during the pandemic. This filing comes weeks after Apple canceled a long-running project to build an electric and self-driving car.
And we just had a story on healthcare that CVS selling that abortion pill is really big. But also, when we talk about insurance, shares of U.S. health insurers fell earlier this week after the Biden administration didn't boost payments for private Medicare plans as much as the insurance industry had hoped. The announcement puts more pressure on insurers already grappling with high medical costs.
It also deals a blow to Medicare Advantage businesses, which have long driven growth and profits for the insurance industry. Shares of CVS, United Health, and Humana all fell around 10%.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go to retail now. Shares of jeans maker Levi Strauss soared this week as the company starts to shift away from department stores. Levi's has long relied on wholesalers like Macy's and Kohl's to drive its business, but it's now doing nearly half its sales through its own websites and stores. Selling directly to customers is boosting Levi's profit and giving it better data on its customers and their shopping habits. For the 3-month period ending in February, the company reported earnings of 26 cents a share, ahead of the 21 cents expected by analysts. Levi's has also announced that it's cutting 10 to 15% of its workforce, which should save the company about $100 million.
And over 500,000 fast food workers just got a huge raise, but not everyone is celebrating. California has raised the minimum wage from $16 to $20 an hour for chain companies with at least 60 stores nationwide. With the change comes concern from small businesses as they now have to raise their own wages in order to compete. There has also already been an increase in menu prices since the announcement. The prices of burgers from Burger King have jumped nearly 12%.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a big ripple effect from that minimum wage increase in California. And yet another price raise here. JetBlue is introducing peak pricing to its baggage fees. So before, you had to pay $45 for your first checked bag and $60 for your next. Now, if you make the same trip during the company's peak travel dates, you'll be paying an extra $5 for your first bag and an extra $10 for the next. This comes after a list of setbacks for JetBlue, such as cutting some of its routes and its planned partnership with American Airlines, and that acquisition of Spirit, both being shut down by the FTC.
Shares of Truth Social Trump Media and Technology Group tumbled 9% today, the lowest level since the company went public last week.
This is only one of the many issues Trump has been facing in the past few weeks. We bring in Luke Radel now with the history behind Trump's latest business venture, if you want to call it that. Good evening, Luke.
Good evening, Bradley and Peyton. As we've discussed before, Donald Trump is known for being a successful businessman, but in the past, his business ventures haven't always been successful. Trump Steaks, Trump Water, Trump Airline, Trump Magazine, Trump Mortgage, Trump University, Trump Mattress, Trump Travel Site, otherwise known as GoTrump.com, and the Trump Board Game are all now defunct. And the Trump Board Game is one that I want to focus on a little bit here and show you how Donald Trump pitched it, because I think it's pretty emblematic of how he's pitched his entire brand thus far.
I wonder what Trump's game is this time.
Trump's got a new game. Trump's got a new deal. What's your game, Donald?
Heard about Trump's new deal?
What?
Trump has a new game. What is it?
Mr. Trump, Mr. Trump.
Mr. Trump, please.
My new game is Trump, the game.
Trump, the game where you deal for everything you've ever wanted to own. Because it's not whether you win or lose, it's whether you win.
Yes!
Play Trump, the game from Milton Bradley.
I think you'll like it.
But Trump's newest game, which is DJT, the Trump media company, has not been winning very much. If you look at how it's gone over the past few weeks since it has been a publicly traded company on the NASDAQ under that ticker DJT, not been doing too well. And the reason for that is because of a deluge of negative headlines about the company, from people calling it a scam to two of the brothers that helped founding it pleading guilty to insider trading, and him suing two of the company's co-founders. So why wouldn't people want to invest in a company like this? Well, by the numbers, the losses that they reported just recently were $58.2 million compared to just $4 million in revenue. Another interesting statistic that we don't have right now are the user metrics, which is the main source of how you know that a social media company is succeeding. We know that Twitter has hundreds of millions of users, Facebook has hundreds of millions of users, but the Trump Truth Social company won't report how many users it has. And the reason for that is because the product is Donald Trump and his postings. And do you know who knows that, Brad and Peyton? Donald Trump does. He posted on Truth Social the other day saying, "It is the primary way I get my word out, and for better or worse, people want to hear what I have to say, perhaps, according to the experts, more than anyone else in the world." For better or for worse, they want to hear what he has to say, but it's not seeming to work out for his businesses.
Luke, really interesting breakdown of all of that. But my question is, like, is this a meme stock? Is this something people should be taking seriously? I mean, you went through all the negative headlines, but just putting my investor hat on, why would someone want to buy this? Like, what is the incentive?
Yeah, the fact that a company with revenue and with assets like that would have a valuation in the billions of dollars is hard to believe, and it relates to that meme stock trend. We've seen GameStop and AMC having valuations well beyond what their company is actually doing in revenue. The difference is that GameStop and AMC actually have products. They have business plans. They're able to sell things. They may not always be successful business plans, but this seems to be driven a lot by partisan politics. People who want to support the former president are seeing this as a way to do so.
And earlier this week, Trump was able to put up the money for his bond that was actually lowered in the higher court. So is this the end of all of his money troubles?
See, it's not the end just yet, because typically you have to file a bunch of paperwork about how the insurance company is going to cover you if you're not able to pay for that bond. But in the paperwork, according to CBS News, there was a lot of vital information missing. Information about power of attorney, the financial statement from the insurance company. And this isn't the first time that Donald Trump has had something like this. In fact, when he filed to go public with Truth Social, there was a bunch of information missing from his Truth Social SEC paperwork. There was information missing about the company's business plan going forward. And I think that the fact that they are able to file these documents without crucial information being listed is an indication that maybe Donald Trump is not as good at business as he says he is.
Luke, I have one more quick question for you here. Yeah. So going back to something you said a few minutes ago, you know, people who are investing in this, it's just a ploy to support the former president, right? But do you think that their political support for him outweighs the money that they've lost since they put it in?
Yeah, so much of the money that's being donated right now to Trump's campaign and being put into this Trump stock is because people see him as being persecuted. They want to pay for his legal bills. That's money they're never getting back ever again. And so the fact that they might be able to get something back off of this investment, it might be a better investment than, say, just donating to him directly.
Right. All right. Luke Radel, thank you so much. After the break, we'll take a look at some of the biggest movers of the week. Stay with us.
If you're buzzed and doing this, to make yourself feel okay to drive,
ZWX.
you're not okay to drive.
YGKLVW. Regular you.
You've messed up your son's haircut.
Mom?
Do you A, try to fix it?
Like it never happened.
B, work with what you got? Or C, show solidarity?
Thank you, baby.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
Welcome back. Let's take a quick look at the major 3 indexes on the week. All in the red for 5 days, but there's a bit of a rebound this morning on the jobs report, Peyton.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a bad week for the market, but the stock, I think, is just taking a little bit of a breather. We've had a good 6-month run. You can't always be going up.
It's true. All right, let's quickly get to our movers on the week. We're going to start things off with Spotify here. Look at that, up $49 on the week, almost 20%. big week for Spotify, but it comes on the heels of some negative news. Spotify shares, so they were up about 8% earlier this week. But the negative news is they're going to be increasing the price of their premium subscription later this year. So it's up nearly 20%, Spotify stock, like I said. But they're facing a lot of competition, Peyton, and they're supposed to increase the price of their premium subscription from about $1 to $2, which they did the same thing a year ago. So we're looking at an increase of about $4 to $5 for their premium subscription as they're facing increasing competition. But Spotify stock seems to be up on the news. I think this is one of those scenarios where people have their subscriptions and they do what they do. People don't like change. They're used to what they're used to, right? So if you have Spotify, you have all your playlists, all your podcasts, everything in one place. Why would you switch to a competitor instead of just eating the extra $2 a month?
I mean, I'm a Spotify user, so I think I will be paying the extra $2 a month because you're right. Everything I have is right there. Now let's move from music over to movies, another entertainment forum. Let's talk about AMC. Hopefully we get, there it is right there, there's stocks. So in the last 5 days, it's gone down a significant amount, and there were 17 releases in March, making $800 million for AMC. So we're thinking Dune Part 2, Kung Fu Panda 4. This was an 18% annual increase for AMC, which seems like things are on the up and up for them. The CEO tweeted on Easter that the domestic industry box office has finally turned upwards, but despite all this good news, Bradley, the stocks are still down. So in February 28th in 2023, the AMC stock was valued at about $15 billion. Now, just this past Wednesday, it's at $870 million. Shares are sold short right now for individuals and professional investors. They're adding more shares that can be bought, meaning that their AMC is diluting their stocks. Ultimately, that's going to drive that price down. So that's a situation that they're really in. We talked a little bit earlier, we mentioned meme stocks, that was thrown out there. So that's kind of the situation that's happening right now. Very similar to what happened to GameStop a few years ago. So yeah, people are just short selling these stocks, meaning that they're selling stocks that they don't have just to drive down that price.
Well, I think AMC, they're out of the worst of it when you talk about meme stocks, because that whole fiasco with them and GameStop just a few years ago, that was like peak meme stock. But now AMC, the biggest thing they need is just a cash infusion. So like you said, those shares are getting diluted, and they're down 45% since the start of the year, but they're also only trading at like $3 a share, so I don't think that's something investors are looking at too much. But it's weird because since the pandemic, you keep hearing, oh, this is going to be the best year for the movie industry. This is going to be. Each year, things don't actually seem to getting better, to be getting better. I think the whole streaming impact on the box office has really taken a toll. And as much as I personally enjoy the experience of going to a movie theater, I don't think that kind of mass attraction to the box office is coming back anytime soon. I don't know. How do you feel about that, Peyton?
Well, I mean, you say that, but I mean, the revenue that they just had kind of is proving otherwise. Like, they're seeing a lot of people in the movies, and they just had pretty much one of the best months they've had since 2019. So I think that while me and you might not be going to sit down and watch movies, I think maybe other people are, and hopefully, you know, we get people back to the theaters, because you're right, streaming is having a huge impact.
Let's go our last mover on the week. It is Ulta Beauty. Why don't you kick us off with this one?
I will kick us off, Bradley. So Ulta shares just fell yesterday. We talked a little bit about this last week with Estee Lauder. The beauty industry is just not thriving right now. CEO Dave Kimball warned everyone that there was going to be less of a demand for beauty products. So the first of the month, it was at $519 a share, and then today it was $442 a share. Estee Lauder e.l.f. also fell on Wednesday with his statement, so overall the beauty industry is just not doing great right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of retailers like Macy's, Kohl's, they've been trying to drive their sales growth by focusing on beauty. But my question for you, I'm not someone who buys makeup or a lot of beauty products, but is the demand still there? Because my mind, when I read that, you know, beauty's trying to bring people to the stores, it's like, okay, it's a whole experience. You go, like, you try different products, that kind of thing. So that makes sense to do that in person.
Yeah, it does make sense to do it in person. I just think with the pandemic, people are just wearing makeup less. And something that I didn't mention last week is that Estee Lauder is actually losing a lot of their sales from travel. Like people are traveling, and Estee Lauder will have little booths set up. People will buy people will buy beauty products there, and so that's where they're losing a lot of their money. So just a lot of change in society, I'd say after the pandemic.
I just want to make one more note. Ulta says their sales this year are going to be in the range of 11.7 to 11.8 billion for 2024, which would still be higher than their 11.2 billion last year. So they're growing and they're doing fine, just not as fast as they'd like.
Yes. After the break, we'll take a look at how the upcoming solar eclipse is going to have major economic impacts on cities across the U.S. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Sadie Miller.
My name is Luke Brady. I go by St. Luke.
So this one I started with this guitar lick.
Welcome back. States across the U.S. are bracing for an influx of people coming in to watch the once-in-a-lifetime solar eclipse next week. Central New York included. Market Shares analyst Peter Berry is here to tell us how the eclipse is helping some businesses. Hey, Peter.
Hey, Peyton and Bradley. This solar eclipse is going to be lights out. The eclipse is just 3 days away. However, the path of totality is not just affecting the Central New York area. It will span from Texas to Maine, and nearly 32 million people live in the path, and another 4 million are projected to travel to see this rare occurrence. It has been 7 years since the moon completely blocked the sun and was visible in the United States. The solar eclipse has also boosted tourism industry, and about 1 million people alone will go to Texas with the tourism to see this event. It will favorably affect business, according to the Lisa W. Miller and Associates, a market research firm that estimates $165 million will be spent on eclipse glasses. Another $685 million will be spent on dining, and $810 million on short-term rentals and hotels. The next solar eclipse over the United States is going to be in 2044, and the next one in New York State is in 2079. But with solar eclipses coming, there's going to be a lot of great business specials. Tim Hortons is having an eclipse donut. Applebee's, for our viewers over 21, will have a perfect eclipse margarita. And Moon Pie also selling an eclipse survival kit with 2 eclipse glasses in their packaging. But even with all these specials, consumers still have to watch out for potential scams. Fake hotel listings and fake eclipse glasses are the most prominent. The Better Business Bureau said the best ways you don't get scammed is to make sure your glasses are safe and certified by the International Organization of Standardization, and to double check your hotel listings.
So, Peter, how does this compare to the 2017 eclipse's boost in business?
So the American Paper Optics sold 45 million eclipse glasses. They're on pace to sell 75 million. But the National League of Cities said the 2017 eclipse had a big economic impact in places such as South Carolina. 1.6 million people visited South Carolina, and it was nearly 100% increase in Idaho for hotel listings. But the Rochester area is also having a 1,200% increase in hotel reservation in 2024, and over 1 million people expected to go to Texas for the eclipse on Monday.
And Peter, we know Central New York is a hot spot for the eclipse because we're going to get that nice view of the sun fully going over, or the moon, rather. What are local businesses doing for this event?
So places like the Museum of Science and Technology, or MOST, in downtown Syracuse is having an event on their front lawn, a solar eclipse festival, and the Syracuse Mets are also having 10,000 fans in attendance and giving them eclipse glasses. Peyton and Bradley, I'm going to send it back to you guys.
All right, Peter, thank you so much. As more than 2 million students graduate from high school this year, many are finalizing their decision on what college to go to this fall, and a lot of them are facing some jaw-dropping costs. Market Shares analyst Michael Lamorte spoke to students about their feelings on rising college prices.
High school seniors are getting ready to make their final decisions on where they'll be attending next fall. And besides the pressures of deciding what school will benefit their future, prospective and even current students now have even more pressure when it comes to financials. Multiple universities have reported increasing their tuitions for the upcoming year, with some even costing up to $95,000. Well, one SU student has a word to describe the tuition hike.
I mean, I would have to say disgusting. Like, that's a problem all across the country. Just any college, no matter how prestigious it is, it shouldn't be over $90,000 to attend there.
Wesley College, Harvard, Harvey Mudd College, Brown University, and the University of Pennsylvania have all exceeded the $90,000 mark, with the University of Southern California reaching $95,000. And now students are worried with loans and are wondering where the tuition money will be going.
Where does this money really go? Is it for us? Is it for the athletes? Who's it for?
It's a little ridiculous to assume that the average population is going to be able to pay back loans of $90,000 a year over the span of 4 to 5 years.
And it's making students feel like a university is more of a business than a place of academics.
I think there are definitely some major issues in terms of how we're seeing just more and more bureaucracy being put into place in terms of how stuff at the university works.
It's sad that they're considering us more like a dollar sign than actually caring for our education.
I mean, there's a lot of hardworking people, hardworking families that would love to pay for their child's tuition, but almost a year's salary, probably more. That's just unacceptable.
CitrusTV reached out to SU for a comment, but they declined as next year's tuition rates have not yet been released. In Syracuse, Mike Lamorte, Citrus TV News.
Thanks so much, Michael. Coming up on Market Shares, companies across the U.S. are rolling out solar eclipse promotions. What items to look out for?
Welcome to an excellent episode of Live from Studio B.
Welcome back. Our Peter Berry just touched on it, but sellers of donuts, pizzas, and chips are seeing the upcoming eclipse as a big marketing rush and taking full advantage of it happening Monday. In the snacks department, Krispy Kreme and Oreos are teaming up to sell a donut cookie combination, and Sun Chips is selling a limited edition flavor for only the 4.5-minute event.
And Pizza Hut will give customers a, get this, Bradley, total eclipse of the hut. I think it's genius.
My kind of humor.
Yes,
But
I
that's
love
all the time we have this afternoon. I'm Bradley Hoppenstein.
And I'm Peyton Spellacy. Have a great night, Syracuse.
Enjoy the eclipse on Monday.